It is 4 o'clock, and we're going to call the meeting of the Solid Waste Management Authority into session. And please take the roll.
Commissioner Borges,
I'm here.
Commissioner Naffa, Commissioner Wright,
Here.
Commissioner Greeno,
I'm here.
Chair Wilson.
I am here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Is there any public comment at this point in time on anything that is either off the agenda currently or on the agenda today that the public wishes to speak to? Having none, we are going to take a little bit of out of order from the agenda, and we are going to ask representative of change makers, please, to come forward if you can to the who's the speaking for the group. And I want to welcome you all to here, and we have a discussion. It's item number 6 on the agenda for those that have the agenda and wish to pay attention. A discussion on possible approval of location adjustments of paired street side containers for trash and recycling as advocated by your group. So you have the floor.
Hello, my name is Dean Lockhart. We're with Changemakers who are working with True North Organizing to try and make change within our community. We work within the school to help incoming 8th graders and people coming in all throughout high school to become better leaders within their community. So right now we are trying our best to work on making change with the litter situation in Del Norte. So.
Hi, I'm Raven, also part of Changemakers. So let's see. Do you want the whole story? Is that what this is? All right. So last summer we all met and we were looking at what we wanted to see in the community, and what problems there were that needed to be improved upon. So we found that litter was a big issue, and we started speaking with officials. We started with Valerie Starkey, who got us connected with the city council. And from there, we met with Eric Weir, the Solid Waste Management Authority members, and the Recology Director, John Perry. During that meeting with city council and with city and waste representatives, we presented our plan for several areas that we saw that needed more trash cans due to the high amounts of litter. Some of those locations were Mason Mall, the Highway 101, and the skate park, in front of the skate park. We got approval from John Perry and sorry, I forgot his name. We got approval from John Perry and Solid Waste Director that Basin Mall and the skate park, and together we worked on a map plan, and we got 4 locations for new trash cans to be placed and 1 location for a trash can to be moved to. And they said that they would hold 1 in storage for a possible 5th location. All right, I think that's all. Thank you.
And we really appreciate the way they engaged with the city and with everybody to try to make these suggestions. And generally, I think we're all good with them. There isn't a change in the contract, so there's no need for a change order. It's kind of a change in the contract, so there's no need for a change order. It's kind of an administrative thing. But as you know, we worked with the city and the county in terms of the design of those containers, and we worked with the city about where they're placed within of those containers, And we work with the city about where they're placed within the city, and we work with the county about where they're placed in the county. And since the change makers were really focused on trying to provide receptacles for litter in problem spots in the city, all of their recommendations were easy to follow through on. There was some discussion of the area around Dutch Brothers along 101, and there's a concern about not providing street side containers where there isn't otherwise a trash can. So, and then of course that's a private business, so there's always gifts of public funds. So in general, working in the downtown area makes a lot more sense in terms of the intent of the program. But really appreciate the changemakers' engagement on all this, and I think it's safe to say that this is ready for approval. The city is all good with it, and
Does not appear
for approval. The city is all good with it, and
does not appear that this is a need for a vote. Or
consensus direction would be fine.
Yes.
I think that's perfectly adequate.
the board in consensus with the placement of the new containers or
Yes.
existing containers at these locations? Yes. Then I want to thank you all for bringing it forward to this board, as well as your thoughtful and attentive deliberations onto where you believe that this is necessary and needed. And we are going to have those containers placed at the recommended locations. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. Recommended locations. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
If this was a video game, the victory music would be
Yes,
playing
yeah,
now.
yeah. And at this point, the Solid Waste Management Authority is going to move into closed session. Thank you. We'll be back in about 10 to 15 minutes. Thank you for your patience. We will now call the meeting back to order. Is there anything to report out of closed session?
There's no reportable action. Direction was given to staff.
So that brings us to item number 2, the consent agenda. Can I have a motion to accept the consent agenda or discussion on that point? So moved. Have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any public comment on consent items on the consent agenda only? Seeing none, bring it back to the vote.
Commissioner Borges?
Yes.
Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
Commissioner Naffa?
Yes.
Commissioner Greeno?
Yes.
Chair Wilson?
Yes. That brings us to the director's report, please.
Thank you, Chair Wilson. So during this past month, we continue to operate the Delaware County transfer stations, Gasky and Klamath transfer stations without a penny of taxes and for lower charges than for equivalent facilities in Humboldt or Curry counties. During this last month, we supported the Gasky Neighbors Helping Neighbors fuel reduction event, and during that event, they collected 4,220 pounds of brush, fully reducing the fire risks in that area. And the Klamath River cleanup brought in 92,780 pounds, which is a lot. But we're really glad to see those materials off the landscape. So, and thanks to the Klamath tribe for doing such a good job organizing that year after year. And thanks to Gasky Neighbors Helping Neighbors for that brush removal event. Other items we will be covering later in the agenda, so I'll jump along to personnel items, and I'm delighted to announce that Tabitha Weir, our refuse site attendant, has been advanced to become our new account clerk, and she will be. She's already started cross training for that position, but she'll actually start doing the account clerk duties in the coming weeks. And we had 12 applicants for this position, so indicating it's kind of an employer's market, but only 6 of them were fully qualified to do the job. So we're happy with that whole process. And during the past month, Assistant Director Seymour and I attended a meeting of Solid Waste Joint Powers Authority's directors, which is a very interesting organization in that essentially it's just folks like myself and Kira getting together and talking about issues of common concern. Mostly we talked about SB 54 implementation and what's on the horizon for that for us. And then we also attended the 5th annual conference on illegal dumping held in Oakland. So I spoke at that and am active in trying to address those issues, but both were well worth our time. With that, I'd be happy to move on, or I can answer any questions.
Any questions? Proceed.
Okay. Looking at our accounts receivable aging summary, you can see that most things that have gone to 90 days have already been turned over to collections. The few things that you see over 90 days that have not been turned over to collections are generally federal agencies, and there have been some cash flow issues with some.
That will bring us down to item number 7, actually. We have nothing under landfill post closures, transfer station. We already dealt with collections franchise and the discussion of the change makers. So it brings us down to general solid waste authority matters. 7.1, discussion of possible action regarding purchases of equipment and supplies under SB 1383 local assistance grant from Cal Recycle.
Trying to go back. I go back to the beginning. Okay. So in general, last meeting, I showed you a spreadsheet of some of their equipment requests that we had received, and I definitely got the feedback that the board wanted more information about how that all came about and what this was all part of. So this is part of an SB 1383 local assistance grant we received through Cal Recycle. And we've been having a series of community meetings talking about how we might be able to manage our food rescue and redistribution services within the county and our composting services within the county in a way that reduces our overall greenhouse gas impacts. And so in these series of community meetings, which have been hosted by the Del Norte Solid Waste Task Force, and I'd like to recognize the chair of the task force, Craig Strong, who's here with us today. But some of the key themes and discussion areas, we talked about food waste prevention, and in general, there is interest in more food rescue. Uh, One of the challenges is that there seems to be a challenge for staffing costs for pretty much all of the food rescue organizations. Composting, while we do have some community composting, there, unlike urban communities, we do not have a central composting operation or facility, and there's reasons for that. We did talk about the potential for windrow or in-vessel composting, and the importance of education, infrastructure, and policy. Let's see. So looking at community composting, these are some of the existing composting activities that are already happening. We've got the Donatal Food Forest, Taloidani have a composting program, Alexander Dairy doing an excellent job composting agricultural manures. And the Yurok tribe has invested in some anaerobic digesters, which are nearing operation. So here is an overview of some of the food rescue programs. We've got target partners, sources of food waste, including Walmart, Safeway, grocery outlet, the school district, and local schools. And in general, we look to expand food access and supports to vulnerable population, strengthen our emergency food system resilience, and reduce our edible food waste going into the trash. As I mentioned, one of the current core challenges is general operational funding. While there's interest in additional infrastructure, in some ways, the operational funding is more of a core challenge, because occasionally there are grants in other places that infrastructure can be purchased, but actually paying the people to do the work is an ongoing challenge. So that was one of our recurring themes, and similarly, recurring themes on food waste and recovery was looking at the potential for composting after that food waste can no longer be redistributed, and then looking at infrastructure and education, looking at school outreach programs. So it is a balancing act, trying to balance ways that we can reduce our greenhouse gas emissions while dealing with our fiscal and local operational challenges. So we received equipment requests from 6 different community partners: Mission Possible, the Family Resource Center Food Bank, the Taloidani Natural Resources Department, the Donatal Community Food Council, Grace Lutheran, and Open Door Community Garden. So I'm briefly going to go through the summary of each of those requests. Mission Possible was looking for a truck to expand their food rescue and redistribution. And we have a total of about 58,400 for allocation. So 40,000 would be a lot of that. And we've got the Community Food Council requesting food preservation supplies at 5,000 and a backup generator to improve resiliency at 6,700. We've got the FRC Food Bank looking to buy composting bins. That's not 113 compost bins. That's the model number. It's an AeroBin 113, but they're just looking for 3 of those. Grace Lutheran Church is looking for a backup generator and infrastructure support. They're one of the longest standing food redistribution programs, and they have been serviced by volunteers for a good long time. And then we've got the Taloidani, who's looking at $4,000 for expanding their community composting. They are also looking for storage, whether building a shed or possibly a roll-off sea container. And the Open Door Community Gardening is looking for 2 composting systems, similar to the other composting bin that was requested. So these are going to be assessed then by the task force in terms of which programs are going to be the highest priority. And so what I'd like the board to do is, if you could, look at the staff report. And on the back page, we've got 8 assessment questions and we've got a weighting of each of those. And we want those to add up to 100%. But if you could offer some guidance, if you think any of those percentage changes should be made, then what we'll do is we'll ask the task force members to assess what they think, how each of those requests meet each of those questions. What is the relative expansion of food rescue or community composting if this were to be purchased? Assessing the value to the community compared to the cost of the equipment requested. Assessing how much equipment will increase the resiliency of food rescue or community composting systems. So all of these are obviously qualitative evaluations made by each of the task force members, but then those evaluations are going to be weighted by those percentages. So by setting those percentages and by letting the task force do this evaluation, then we can come back to the board for a final set of recommendations of these were the highest priority purchases that we think, according to your criteria, we should make. So that gives us a process by which we can finalize the choice of how do we spend this $58,400 for the best community benefit. So that's what we're looking for, and I'd be happy to discuss or take feedback on the suggested points for each of those 8 questions. And I guess I'd also open the floor to Craig Strong in case he would like to add anything to this discussion.
Real quick, too. My wife works for one of these organizations, so I probably should recuse myself from helping with the decision.
I think in the weighting, that's actually not necessary because you're setting the weighting for somebody else's evaluation. If you care to recuse yourself at the final vote, I
Okay.
think that would be fine, but I don't think at this point it's necessary.
Yep, thank you, Ted. Craig Strong, current chair of the Solid Waste Task Force. I'm just attending to see Ted's excellent presentation and assure you that we're going to do a lot of the difficult work of, there's not enough money for the equipment request, so some things will have to get cut or modified. But yeah, we'll look forward to going over this at our June 5th meeting and turn that right around so that at the next Solid Waste Authority meeting, you'll have this material in hand to make your decision.
Any comments or questions from the board? Yeah. We'll get those numbers back to you. Ted?
Yeah, if
As soon as possible.
any input, I will average the input that I receive. But we could also discuss it. But however you choose to provide that feedback, I'll incorporate that prior to the next task force meeting so that they can use this as the basis for their assessment.
The only thing I like to say is, we want to see the dollars, at least for me, I want to see the dollars go as far as we possibly can. You hate to see it all, the vast majority go into one pot, so to speak.
Right.
When there are several groups in here, and then those that I buy as long-standing, that have had operational success already, have proven the fact that they are in for the long haul, and they've been here for a while, would get my preference as far as higher on the list, because they've obviously been doing it, whether it's the Lutherans or whether it's the community garden or whether it's, if they've been in operation for quite a while, as opposed to someone who's just showing and reaching out for the dollars, but they haven't actually developed the process and the organization to support what they are hoping to do. Would get my preference on where the money would go initially first. And those are the things that I see in the distribution of funds that should be considered as far as those organizations that are already in the game and have been doing it for a while and have shown success would be my higher on my list of selection, as opposed to a startup, somebody that hasn't yet really gotten the process going. And also availability and accessibility to grants. I mean, if the organization has got already good access to grant funding, and this isn't like the one trough that they're coming to because it happens to be available. Um, Again, looking at just the access to funding is also, one of those things. If they've got other pools that they can dive into to get, whereas some of these organizations are very small, they seem to be, and they're just community operations. This may be their only opportunity to really, reach out and touch and try to get some dollars in specifics for this program. So those are my considerations. We look at how we're dispensing the money out, looking at who's going to be the best recipient, what program is going to be the best recipient of this going forward. Also, those that service the most people. We run lots of programs through the county, and some of them, of course, mandated. Others are just our preference. But some touch, literally thousands of people, and others touch 15 to 20. So
Thank you for that feedback. I did just receive a text from our legal counsel, and he does recommend that you recuse.
any other questions or statements? All right. Thank you so much. And we'll move on to item number 7.2, which is the adjustment of franchise collection rates and refuse disposal rates, Delaware County Transfer Station, Klamath Transfer Station, and Gasky Transfer Station.
At the last meeting, the board approved the change orders for Hambro WSG for the transfer station operations and the change order for Recology Del Norte. This resolution enacts those changes as they affect customer rates. So, for instance, at the Del Norte County Transfer Station, approximately 2/3 of the money we receive there goes to our transfer station operators. So they have a service fee per ton, and that's not the fee that gets charged to the customer. The customer pays the full amount per ton, and a portion of that, approximately 2/3, goes to Hambros. So this approves the customer rates, including the Recology Del Norte rates under Attachment A, the Del Norte County Transfer Station rates under Attachment B, and the rates charged at Gasky and Klamath transfer stations under Attachment C. And staff recommend approval. This is something that is done every year at this time. And were we not to adopt this, it would raise a number of additional questions and concerns. Namely, this feeds into our budget. And so if we don't have these approved rates, then that calls into question the basis for the budget.
Excuse me, have all the rates been adjusted for that nickel versus penny?
Yes, they have.
Okay.
And I suppose I would highlight the one detail on that, which is with respect to Recology, and that the Recology rates are to the penny, but they are in charge of their own billing. So they can round down to the nickel as they see fit. And when customers are paying over the counter, that may have a difference. But that's still going to be fine under the agreements because the approved rates are the approved maximum rates that Recology can charge. They can't charge more than that. They can always round down to the nickel.
Can you kind of explain your rationale for these changes?
Yeah, sure. With the adopted change orders, we have to pay those rates starting July. So we have to pay those additional fees to Hambro WSG and to Recology under our contract. And so we need to adjust the amounts that we charge to our customers. in order to pay those additional rates that we've already approved that we're going to be paying our contractors. So the sequence each year is we adjust the rates to be paid to our contractors as adjusted by CPI under the agreement. And then we adopt these rates under a rate resolution. If we're keeping the standard services, if we're adding any new services, then we have to go through a rate ordinance process. And those projected revenues then fold into the budget, which also is the next item on today's agenda. And that budget, once presented as a draft to this board, then gets circulated also to the city council and to the board of supervisors for their review prior to final presentation to this board once again for approval before the end of June. This is a bit ahead of how the county does their budget because I believe that they're 3 months behind or something like that anyway. So we're a bit ahead of the county's budget process as we go through this, but this is something that we do every year.
And what is the, I don't see it spelled out basically, what's the percentage increase for the collection rates for the self-hauling?
That is an excellent question, and I had that spelled out at the last meeting, and I don't have it here. I believe it's between 2 and 6%, but the current rate is 188 per ton, and it's going to 192, for example.
Current is 188.
Yeah, so it's a little over a 2% increase.
Entertain any questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, bring it back to the board for a motion.
Chair, I move that we adopt, excuse me, Resolution 2026-04, adjusting the franchise collection rates and refuse dispute disposal rates for the Delaware County Transfer Station, Klamath Transfer Station, and the Gatsby Transfer Station.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Please pull the vote.
Commissioner Borges,
Yes.
Commissioner Wright,
Yes.
Commissioner Naffa,
Yes.
Commissioner Greeno,
Yes.
Chair Wilson.
Yes. That'll
And-
bring us to.
And I have a question regarding, so it also says Resolution 2026-04. Do we need to approve that or what? Well, we just did 06. He said 06.
Did I say 06?
Yeah.
Well, can you,
Amend that to 04.
Because,
amend that
because
to
underneath
04?
it does mention both 06 and 04. It's mentioned in the now therefore be it resolved.
oh. Which one of those is correct?
The 04 is correct.
Okay. Can you amend it to be 04, please?
Where do you see it?
Well, here it's 04. And then here under therefore be it resolved.
2025
Says
06,
06 and
that
then
it
it
will
says
amend it.
04.
That was last year's.
Yeah. So this year's is the 2026-04.
Yes. Not the 2025-06.
So we need to vote again because I think you said 06.
I know that one was, we're amending the last year's one in 2025. So I think it's good.
Okay.
So long as we're all clear that what actually got adopted was the
04.
resolution before you,
26-04.
2026-04.
That brings us to 7.3, discussion of possible action regarding process and approval of details as proposed in Delaware Solid Waste Management Authority budget for 25-26.
I apologize that I can see that the copying order is a little odd in terms of the budget presentation. Sorry about that. But in general, this is the draft budget for the coming fiscal year. This does get presented in draft form to this board at this point. And then, like I said, it does get presented for additional comment and questions by the Board of Supervisors and the City Council if they have that. I anticipate that will occur on June 1st to the City Council and June 9th to the Board of Supervisors. And then it would return here. I can see also that I included a paragraph that shouldn't be there under projected expenses because I do have a 9% increase in salaries and benefits under this budget. I don't know exactly how much the salaries are going to change. Like I said, that was a subject discussed in closed session. So I just kind of put a placeholder there. One of the big things that has happened is, one, this agency is in the black. So used to be that we were in the red and every penny was hard to come by, and we're now in a better position than we have been. So that's positive. The other thing is, like I said, because of we're in the black, we put a lot of money into the property line, and that can be moved around as needed throughout the fiscal year, depending. But it's totally fine for this agency to be accumulating a little resource at this point. One, because we've been in the red for so long, and two, the transfer station building is now been in service since 2005, and it has a 30-year design life, and so we're starting to see some aspects age, and we should be prepared to do some of those replacements. Also, the administrative office building is the same sort of ongoing aging process. So, like I said, accumulating a little resource for the agency will enable addressing those problems in future to be a more practical option. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. And again, you will have another chance to see this, either as a city council person or a supervisor, or because it'll come back to you in the June meeting.
Is there anything in this, or that's not in this budget that you would have liked to have in this budget that maybe is an ongoing need or a need in the future that we should be starting to look at?
Well, one of the big things that was different in this budgeting process compared to years past is the county's new accounting system, the ERP system, has not allowed for the real-time tracking of how our expenses are going. And so I don't have a good projection of how much we've spent this year compared to last year. So I was not, as in years past, I've looked at that, and that's been the basis for my future projections. This year, I just didn't have that information. So mostly I went from last year's budget as a starting point.
Yeah, you should have the opportunity between now and final. The word on is that they're on the process of getting through the smaller districts. Who got getting that process being done. So those budgets not only are going to be available for us as the board members to see the county budgets, but districts are going to be done, and a lot of those are fairly short processes.
And towards that end, you'll see on this budget, on the far left, you'll see the code. And those are the new county ERP codes. And the last time we adopted the budget, we didn't have all of those codes for all of those lines. And in the past year, a lot of those have been fleshed out. So,
yeah, and the only thing is being in the black is a good thing. It's a great thing. And I would look at your infrastructure, those items that feel are going to be dealt with in this year or coming years, and looking at putting dollars in reserve for those projects that are going to take multiple years probably to build the funds necessary to address the replacement and or a repair of some of those things, such as the gate had to get repaired. Turns out to be very expensive gates, or the wall, or fences, or whatever we hit.
Also, something that we might need to look at is some upgrades to our security.
Yeah, that would be nice.
yes, for what it's worth, I did just approve a couple more cameras that will be installed in the coming month.
Drones with guns.
All right.
Any other action need to be done with this?
I think if the board doesn't have any changes, then I'll take that as consensus direction. I can move this forward to the city and the county for their review.
I didn't know if you needed adoption for bill paying issues.
I think consensus direction at this point is okay, because final approval will come at the
Just
the
one
meeting.
quick
Yeah,
question on the fixed assets property. You mentioned, you addressed it, I believe already, but that's just basically like setting money aside because we had some extra money, so building a reserve fund, correct?
More or less, that's correct. At various times, the board has discussed the potential for purchasing property for a northern transfer station, but the property investigations have not found a property that would be suitable with a willing buyer. So consequently, those monies are there, but kind of waiting for the right opportunity.
So last year there was 150,000 applied to that. What's the, do you know the total that's sitting in this account, this fund?
And unfortunately, that's the kind of thing I can't. I can look that up for you, but
Okay,
no, I
just
don't immediately.
More
have it.
curiosity than anything, I guess.
But it's true. What you say is true, and that it has been sort of like treated as an extra reserve fund. And when we needed to move things, that's past the contingency funds. That's where we took it from.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Any public comment? Seeing none. Then that brings us up to the last item, which is adjournment. So we will adjourn this Solid Waste Management Authority meeting, and we will reconvene on June 16th at 4 p.m. at the same bat time, same bat location.